The creator god Ahura Mazda chose Darius as king, and he declared himself in an inscription as King of Kings, ruler of the lands and tribes, ruler of this vast earth. In a picturesque relief image, the king appears on a pedestal supported by subject peoples while greeting a winged figure. After a period of short and mild rule of the Greek colonies in Asia Minor, under the Lydian king Croesus around 550 BC, integration into the Persian multi-ethnic empire came as early as 546 BC. Although tributary, the Persian tyranny manifested itself as a personal feudal system in all 20 satrapies, with the satrap, as representative of Persia, appointing local nobles as trustees to exercise power and demand tribute. This was reluctantly accepted until the Ionian Revolt. The conquest of Thrace, Macedonia, and the Bosphorus and Hellespont Straits from 516 BC by the Persian king Darius separated the Greek cities around the Black Sea from the rest of Greece on the coast of Asia Minor. Trade relations in particular, especially grain deliveries, were now under Persian control. These and other measures by the great king led to the Ionian Revolt along the coast of Asia Minor. Since the rebellions began under Aristagoras of Miletus, the Persians launched an offensive against the city. The Ionians' rebellion was the result of a failed campaign and political intrigue. After the founding of the Persian Empire, the Persian king Cyrus led a campaign to the north against the Scythians in order to expand his empire. During the first Scythian campaign, the Persian king Cyrus lost his head. Darius launched the second Scythian campaign to avenge Cyrus. But that too failed. After the failure of the Scythian campaign, the Persian army returned to their ship bridge over the Bosphorus, with the Scythians breathing down their necks. The Ionians wanted to tear down the bridge on the Bosporus and leave the Persian rule to the Scythians. But the tyrant of Miletus, Histiaeus, was able to stop his followers. In gratitude, he received the city of Myrkinos in Thrace from Darius. However, the general Megabazos distrusted Histiaeus' loyalty and convinced the great king to bring him to Susa as an advisor. Darius then installed Histiaeus' son-in-law as the new tyrant. The newly installed tyrant of Miletus, Aristagoras, had persuaded Artaphernes, the satrap of Sardis, to undertake a campaign against Naxos at the instigation of Naxian refugees. Naxos is a Greek island in the Aegean Sea. Whereupon the Greek colonies in Asia Minor rebelled and the Athenians and Eretria sent support. The fleets met directly off the coast of Miletus, near the now silted island of Lade. The sea battle began successfully with the Greek squadron from Chios. However, the contingents from Samos and Lesbos suddenly broke off the fight and sailed away, whereupon the remaining fleet was destroyed by the Persians despite fierce resistance. In 494 BC, Miletus was captured and burned after the Battle of Lade. The Ionians submitted to the Persian king Darius, who never forgot Athens' role in this conflict and soon afterwards planned a punitive expedition against the rebel supporters, Athens and Eretria. In the spring of 493 BC, the Persian general Mardonios, a son-in-law of Darius, set out from Cappadocia and Cilicia with a mixed army of land and sea forces in order to restore Persian rule in Thrace and Macedonia after the Ionian Revolt. After this operation, which also included the conquest of Thassos, the Persian fleet was destroyed by a storm near Mount Athos. In the spring of 490 BC, the punitive military expedition, which was specifically directed against Eretria and Athens, began from the assembly point of the army and fleet at Tarsus. Darius appointed his nephew Artaphernes and Datis as generals for this company. The Persian fleet sailed north along the coast of Asia Minor and then turned west of Samos to subjugate Naxos. In the run-up to the campaign of 490 BC, Darius may have demanded the subjugation of various Greek polis on the mainland through symbolic acts of handing over earth and water to his envoys in order to isolate Eretria and Athens. Although this demand was accepted in many cities, Athens and Sparta did not provide assistance. The Persian army marched towards Eretria, while Athens did not provide the requested assistance. After a week of resistance, the city fell, was plundered, and the inhabitants were enslaved to Persia, as Darius is said to have ordered the Athenians to do. The arrival of the Persian fleet in Attica should not have come as a surprise to the Athenians after the extensive subjugation tour in their area of the island, so they reacted immediately. The Persians chose to land on the plain of Marathon, as suggested by Hippias, once ruler of Athens who had been expelled 20 years earlier. The location seemed favorable since it was about 25 miles from Athens and the Athenians could only arrive after the Persians had already fully landed. After a few days of waiting, the Athenians formed up for battle. In particular, the right wing under the command of the Polemarch and the left wing, on which the Plataeans stood, were heavily occupied. In contrast, the hoplite contingent was unusually flat in the middle and could hardly withstand the Persian arrow archers as they charged forward at a run. During the long battle, the Persians finally broke through the center and pursued the retreating Athenians. At the same time, the Greeks retained the upper hand on both wings and then defeated the initially successful Persians in the middle. The fighting on the way to the Persian ships on which the surviving Persians took refuge was particularly costly, meaning they were only able to save 7 ships. The number of casualties on the Persian side is estimated at 6,000 men, while on the Athenian side it was 192. In response to the news of the Persian defeat at Marathon, Darius began a full-scale mobilization against Greece. He sent messengers to gather an army and asked all provinces and cities to provide far more troops than before. In addition, warships, horses, grain, and cargo ships were required. An intensive rearmament and mobilization had now been going on across Asia for 3 years as all the brave prepared for the fight against Hellas. An uprising in Egypt distracted from these preparations as suppressing the uprising became a priority. When Darius died in 486 BC, his son Xerxes succeeded him on the throne. He first crushed a rebellion in Egypt before resuming military plans against Greece and spending another 4 years mobilizing his forces.